Do you like sci-fi?
I can take it or leave it.
Really?
Sci-fi is not my jam.
I thought you were all into all those aliens coming and abducting and eating us out of big bowls, Fruit Loops or something.
That's my philosophy, but, conflicting things. And after learning about these people, I see why those kinds of philosophies can get you in trouble.
Oh, about how E.T. phoned TELAH.
E.T. phoned a lot of things.
Yes, or live long and prosper. They did not.
They did not live long and prosper.
You know who we're talking about?
We are talking about
Heaven's Gate.
This is a nightmare. Monsters, myth, murder, occult, cults. Join Connie Baffery and Lucy Fur as they discuss all things evil, prepared to be dragged to hell.
Welcome back
to
Drag to Hell.
Mwah!
We love a good cult.
We do.
And you seem to love a good cult too.
I do.
I think our audience loves a good cult too.
Well, if they're still listening, of course they do.
And you know what one of the first cults I ever learned about was? Heaven's Gate.
Yeah. It's one of the ones that always pops up in
Everything.
everything.
You type up cults.
If you type in cults, it's one of the first ones that comes up.
I mean, the names of the people who came into it are such white Texan names. I can't think of anything more Texan than these names.
And even seeing pictures of them, they did look like quite an unfortunate bunch.
If you noticed, his eyes went from being small to massive by the end of the saga.
Yeah.
It was weird. And that's the cool thing about Heaven's Gate. So much of it is so well documented because they videoed stuff. There's links to the videos everywhere. They have their website that's still maintained.
Well, you mentioned his eyes. That's just what happens when you're well enlightened or waiting
Stop
to
taking your meds.
Yes, when you stop taking your meds and you've been well enlightened and are waiting to be abducted by a comet.
Because I know when I stop taking my meds, my eyes get wider and wider and wider. You've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, funny thoughts do pop up when you're off your meds. So,
But to formulate a whole cult and ideology about it,
that ends in suicide? That sounds like my kind of thing. I mean, is it suicide or murder-suicide? Or just...
I feel like it was a bit of all of
or
the
theological self-extrication from your vehicle?
Well, we'll find out talking about it.
Well, Heaven's Gate there's so much to talk about, and to condense it down, we're going to skip a lot of fun facts, but if people want to know more, I'm happy to do a second episode later on down the track.
Yeah,
and fill in all the gaps.
Just tell us.
So we'll start off with Marshall Applewhite.
The cult leader.
He preferred to go by the name Herf. That was his nickname. Herf. H-E-R-F-F. Herf.
Oh dear.
Yes. So he was born May 17th, 1931 in Texas, USA. And he was born to a Presbyterian minister and his wife.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So he was the child who followed his family around and they preached everywhere and he knew the Bible in and out, back to front.
And so the self-proclaimed prophet. Mm-hmm. So what I found interesting and different from like other cult leaders is that he drew from not only scriptures, but he drew from science.
And he also drew from like so many of those ideologies. He also went into like New Age things, like the extraterrestrial theories and paranormal phenomena. But that relates back to him. He had a bachelor's in philosophy from university. So he had this, and he started going to seminary school, and then left seminary school to pursue a career in music. He was a talented opera singer.
Okay. So Marshall is living and deceased proof why science and religion don't hold hands.
I mean, Scientology still exists. And we're kind of in that realm.
I mean, that's its own episode entirely, I reckon.
I don't think that could even be covered in one episode. I think that would be like 5.
We'll do a series on Scientology, and Tom Cruise will talk all about it.
Oh, Mr. One Tooth in the middle of my face and I'm so short.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like him.
Mm-mm.
I'm not a fan of Tom Cruise. Never have been.
I think I've seen one movie with him in it, and I don't even remember.
I think I saw Top Gun, and I had to watch that in high school.
What was the one where he did the thing with the undies and the shirt on? Or was that even Tom Cruise?
I think that's
and he,
Top Gun.
Slid across the floor.
No, that's not Tom Cruise. That's someone else.
I don't know. My care factor is below 0.
Well, anyway, he drew on so many of those things. But what was interesting is all the stuff that led up to him becoming like a cult leader. Like, he had this degree in music. He was in the army for 2 years.
So he was well-rounded in like all different walks.
Yeah. But
things.
He was married to a woman. They had 2 kids together. But he actually was teaching at the University of Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
And he got caught having an affair with a male student.
Oh dear.
And it was a very Catholic university, so he was dismissed.
They love a bit of a scandal.
Yeah, and his wife left him after this.
Oh, okay, shocker.
Yeah, so then he worked at all these other universities, and he kept leaving them because of depression and mental anguish, and so he was fighting his own bisexuality in that he was trying to repress it, but he couldn't, and he had other affairs with students and that. And it makes you wonder, what did he do in the army too?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that could have been fun for him, where he started exploring that side of himself. But we don't know. But this is only one half of the cult leaders. We also have Miss Bonnie Lou Nettles. Now, she was a registered nurse that he became associated with.
Okay.
Now, she was born on August 29th, 1927, also in Texas. And she was born to a Baptist family. But when she got older, she moved away from religion. And she married a man called Joseph Siegel Nettles in 1949. They had 4 kids, which is important later on.
Okay.
Now, she became interested in theology, theosophy, astrology, occult, and the paranormal. Now, theosophy, have you heard of Helena Blavatsky?
No.
So, Madame Blavatsky, I'm saying that so wrong. Anyway, she's basically the mother of occult thinking and theosophy, and theosophy kind of draws on religion, science. It's like the precursor to Scientology and things like that.
The pre-evolution.
It's very hard to understand. People spend their whole lives studying theosophy. So she was interested in that. But Bonnie would then start holding seances in her dining room at home and make money by doing astrology charts for people.
Bonnie, do you want ghosts? Because that's how you get ghosts.
She did. She used to get visited by a 19th century monk all the time, who would tell her what to do.
Oh, Bonnie.
So that sounds like a bit of a visual hallucination to me. And her husband wasn't happy with all this stuff, so they divorced.
Okay.
So Bonnie and Marshall met, and there's all different stories on how they met.
Ooh.
So apparently they met. The one thing that we confirm is they met in March of 1972, but how and where is not. So some sources say Applewhite was an inpatient for his mental health, and Nettles was his nurse. Others say that he was an inpatient, but Bonnie was covering for another nurse from pediatrics.
Oh.
So she was covering from that. Now, Applewhite says that he was visiting a friend in hospital and met Nettles, and when they saw each other, they had like this
Cosmic
connection, like this esoteric understanding of each other.
Oh dear.
Now, Terry Nettles' daughter says that they met at the theatre that Terry worked at, running children's show, because Applewhite would help out with the theatre side of things because of his music background. But they met somehow, and they had this deep understanding with each other, and they developed a platonic celibate relationship. These people never penetrated or did anything like that. Nothing sexual in any way, shape, or form. And then, like the dish and the spoon, they ran away together.
And they aimed for
The
jumping
moon.
the moon,
Like the cow,
but they never did.
no. And when they left, they cut all ties with everyone. Their whole past lives, they left it.
Wow.
They had nothing. They ran away in a car and just drove around, living this nomadic lifestyle, getting to know oneself. It was, they were having cathartic moments and doing these weird, odd jobs. And that's how they came across how they began the human metamorphosis.
For some reason, my brain said that you were going to say the human centipede, but I knew it was wrong, but I still thought it.
I wanted to put it past them to enjoy that. Well, they were meditating on things like about Francis of Assisi, reading Madame Buttfuck. Oh my god.
Madam Buttfuck.
I'm normally good with these Eastern European names, being one myself. I'm struggling today.
They were reading the book of Madam Buttfuck.
Yes. Ooh. Madame Blutbatsky. I'm Madame Helena Blutbatsky.
The struggle is real today.
It
ladies.
is. I have only had one cup of coffee all day. So, the struggle is real.
Need to chug that one down.
I will. I might have a sip now.
Ooh.
For that ASMR. So, anyway, they started like meditating and reading into these scriptures more. And by June of 1973, they had this revelation that they were the two lampposts that were in the Book of Revelations.
Oh dear.
At the end of the world, just before, who witnessed it before they died. And they believed that they'd been chosen to fulfill this biblical prophecy. And you know how they came across this epiphany? What they were doing?
Doing the nookie?
Nope.
Oh.
Digging a trench for a septic tank.
Oh.
So they were digging out stuff for shit when they came up with this. I think there was something in the methane.
I was going to say, I think they've hit a pipe of some kind and they've breathed something in that they shouldn't have.
Yeah, so this was the beginning of the end.
They ate the purple berries.
I ate the purple berry.
I'm pretty sure that's popped up in an episode previously.
Well, funnily enough, in season 9, episode 13 of The Simpsons, the episode The Joyous Sect, Heaven's Gate is referenced in it with the leader and all that. Remember, there's a spaceship and
yes,
they're all dressed the same, so they
Oh.
actually refer to it.
Oh dear.
I can bring Simpsons into everything. So, yeah. So, speaking of Simpsons quotes, The Simpsons did it.
The Simpsons did it.
So, they've begun to develop their doctrine that they believed that they would become these pariahs and killed by people and then be resurrected and ascend into a spaceship in front of all the witnesses in a process called the demonstration.
Oh dear, the demonstration.
So, you know, you picture the UFO. Two people resurrected from the dead, so two zombies,
Oh dear.
being sucked up into the UFO, zooming off into space to experience another level of humanity. That is heaven,
Oh
because
dear.
God was an alien.
They had to unzip their flesh suits.
Zzz.
And then they would go.
Yeah.
Oh dear. I want to be zoomed off into space.
I know. Do you believe in UFOs?
I believe in something. I feel like they'd be a bit fancier than like a flying saucer.
I believe there is life out there, but all these people who've been abducted, especially all these ones from like the southern states of America, who've then been probed, I think intelligent life would have figured out after one or two probes that our brains aren't in our asses.
Yes.
2, I think these hicks got drunk and went to a gay club and had anal sex.
Yeah.
And the UFO was the effects of ecstasy or LSD.
See, okay, well that would make sense.
To me, that's what's happened to these people. But
See, I mean, look at all the people we have in power. See, aliens would take one look at the human race and be like, these fools.
put a box around Earth saying no one visit.
This is
Contaminated.
why they won't talk to us.
Yeah, but these two wholeheartedly believe in UFOs, extraterrestrial contact, and were fascinated by it. Absolutely fascinated. And they started calling themselves the Two, and then dropped their human names of Marshall and Bonnie, and they call themselves
B1 and B2.
almost Bo and Peep,
Oh.
because they were the shepherds leading the sheep to divine salvation.
Oh my god. See,
All you're picturing is him in like a little Bo Peep outfit now with those eyes,
I
aren't you?
am. I'm never gonna watch Toy Story the same again.
Well, as they came across this, they kept traveling and trying to spread the word for like pamphlets and getting people to join them. And they went through this stage of where a lot of cult leaders, wonder if there's a term for it, where they believe that they're above the laws set down by people that aren't God. And so they ignored all these earth laws and regulations. So they got done for like fraud and things like that. And he got out of them. But he got arrested for the theft of a rental car that they hired in St. Louis, and they never returned. And he spent 6 months in jail.
Ooh.
So I wonder if he was celibate when he was in jail.
How'd that go, Bo Peep?
He was Bo.
He was probed.
Yes. He experienced extraterrestrial
Penetration.
Oh.
Well,
Whilst he was in jail, he continued working on the doctrine and the UFO stuff. And whilst he was out, Bonnie just kept working, making money, trying to recruit people as they could. And they slowly gathered people.
Yeah.
Now you gotta remember this is the 1970s and 80s, so there was a lot of drugs. And UFOs, a man just landed on the moon, so everyone was actually really into all this stuff if you look at it from a cultural point of view. So after he got out, they began recruiting more people again, and they referred to their followers as the crew. So there were the crew to join them on the spaceship. So they would leave out all these pamphlets that started off with like the word UFO, fucko, this isn't about aliens, and things like that. Right underneath, and then it would have all the information about what they were doing. So they would post them on like billboard things, like those community boards, telegraph poles, mail them out to people, hand them out to people at churches.
Oh
and
dear.
so they weren't recepted very well, them and their followers, and they got a little bit of bad press at that time. So in the summer of 1975, this is when all the fun started.
Yay!
So Applewhite and Nettles went to the San Francisco Bay because this guy that they handed out a pamphlet to was a teacher of philosophy and alternative studies and things like that. And they did a presentation there, and they recruited students from it. They got about 30 students to join them from this.
Oh dear.
So they were very malleable young minds. And the thing is, all the stuff you read, Applewhite was apparently extremely charismatic and entertaining to watch and listen to and be around. So he had that charisma to do it. And he was a teacher before, so he knew how to manipulate, in a way, their minds to his way of thinking. No, not manipulate. Broaden their experiences on Earth. Out of the 500 odd people at that meeting, they got some, And then they had another meeting at the San Jose Public Library, which got about 500 people. But because of mounting publicity and bad press that was going out there, because people were disappearing and getting called the UFO cults and things like that, they skipped out on doing it. They didn't intend.
Oh.
They didn't turn up to their own big gathering of people.
Oh,
So that lost them some public vote and confidence. And then they decided, well, this isn't exactly working properly, and we need to get prepared for when the spaceship comes here. So they started, with the recruits that they started moving around, having different campsites, living off the grid,
Yeah.
as you would say. And they would send out their followers to try and recruit people.
Yeah.
Now, they didn't tell people where they would be camping. You had to find them. And that was a test.
It was a
to
test.
see if you were worthy.
Oh dear.
And at their peak, they had about 1,000 followers.
Jeez.
Which then dwindled down to 39.
Yeah.
Because when they started bringing in some of their rules and that, people kind of went,
Bye, you crazy.
see you, bitch. But their campsites, what's interesting is, so the campsite, they would have the nutrition zone,
Yep.
the hygiene zone. They would call them zones.
Oh.
Take away emotive words from it,
Yeah.
so you didn't have any connection to it. Because all their followers and that they had when they joined up, they had to leave behind their whole families, husbands, wives, kids, all their possessions, everything. If they lived by themselves, they had to sell all their earthly belongings.
I would want to take all my pups with me.
No. They keep you tethered to Earth.
No, well, I don't want to go in a spaceship anyway.
Oh. But it's amazing. You think there's people who are so dedicated to the cause that they left their own kids. Their own kids and that. And there's quite a few documentaries that you could find on YouTube and that, where you see like parents and that, who were family, like their kids left, and they never heard from them and things like that. It's rather sad.
I did watch a few interviews with like a few of the parents who, and they really just wanted to contact them.
Yeah, just wanted to know that they were alive or not. Like it was such a. It would just be hard not to have an answer.
And I don't know if this is premature yet, or we'll touch on it sooner, but like, also I watched one and the woman was talking about parents who all connected and started their own little, I don't know, I would call it a micro cult, because they were essentially doing the same thing, but they were meeting in private, they were having meetings discussing where they think their children or family members are. They would put adverts in the papers and stuff.
Yeah.
And then one woman was contacted by her son, and he said, "Alright, look, we're not going to give you full details, but print an advert with the names of the people you want to talk to, and some of them may contact you."
Yeah.
That's all they put forward.
And that was under the instructions of Applewhite and Nettles, who now go by the names of T and Do. So T and Do from Do Re Mi Fa Sol La Ti Do.
Oh.
That's where they got it from, the phonetic scale.
Yeah.
So T and Do found out about this and saw that there was bad press in the papers about them, so they commanded that happen.
Yes.
And they told their students, because they called them students, to go do this. So they had students, crew, and classroom.
Ooh.
So when they talked about how they were living, they were a crew.
Yep.
When they were talking about how they were learning and studying and everything about like how they were going to ascend and that, they were students or the classroom. Now, remember before how I said how they like all sci-fi stuff and all that? They love things like the X-Files, Star Trek, and things like that.
Of course they did.
And interestingly enough, one of the Star Trek actresses, Michelle Nichols, who played Uhura in Star Trek,
Yeah.
her brother joined the cult.
Oh.
So that was very interesting. And when you look at a lot of the parallels of what they were doing, they're kind of following like the Prime Directive from Star Trek. You're not a Star Trek person. I can tell by your face right now.
I'm not a Star Trek person. I know that there's people with big ears and like butt heads, and then there's like the elf guy with the horrible bowl cut.
Oh, you're talking about a Vulcan?
That.
Yeah, the Vulcans. You're talking about Spock in particular, I think.
Yeah, maybe. Leonard Nimoy.
Yeah, you're talking about Spock. And I think the things with the butt heads and the big ears you're talking about were the Ferengi. I'm a massive Star Trek fan, so I can see all these parallels. You can draw them up for yourself out of interest, people, because it's very... When you look at all these rules and everything that comes in, you can see some parallels with some of the Star Trek races and things that are in there, because they were massive fans of Star Trek The Next Generation.
Hold on, I do know something about Star Trek. The Borg, and they fly cubes.
Yes, the Borg's my favourite.
Yeah,
and they also have spears.
Ooh.
The Borg are my favourite.
See, the only thing that I cared about was that Sigourney Weaver was like the Borg queen or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I'm here for that, but I never invested.
I love it. Oh.
And lucky I didn't, because I probably would have ended up in a cult.
Well, we still got time.
Yeah.
I mean, we can start you with Star Trek, then go to The Next Generation, Voyager, Deep Space Nine, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Discovery. We've got all the movies, we've got all the novels, we have lots that we could go into.
As appealing as that sounds, I feel like I would rather swallow barbed wire.
I mean, I love it. I've been a massive Star Trek nerd since I was a kid.
You're just a nerd for Star Trek.
Damn right. But anyway, so they cut all these ties, and the members had a check buddy.
Oh.
So your check buddy would make sure that you were following the rules and that you stuck to all the guidelines that they were coming up to as they went along. So if you were gay, you would be paired up with the gender you were attracted to. So if you were a lesbian, you would be set up with another female.
Okay.
If you were a homosexual male, you'd be set up with another homosexual male.
Okay.
If you were heterosexual, you'd be set up with a person of the opposite gender. So it was very progressive in a way.
Yeah.
And this is so that they didn't fall into some of their rules. And they had a lot of rules that kept constantly changing. So,
oh dear.
There was a lot, and I'll go through them all in a little bit, because there's a lot of them.
Oh dear.
Some of them were quite interesting. But some of the key things that the students had to follow was no sex, no drinking, no alcohol, no earthly pleasures, or no connections to Earth.
Ooh.
They're the basic ones. So they were taught that they would abandon their human body for the evolutionary level above human, or TELAH, which was their heaven.
Oh.
So it's where your consciousness would go, where you would live forever. And Star Trek nerds would think of this when it comes to just think Star Trek Voyager, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about.
Is this the weird cloud? All my Star Trek knowledge comes from that one Futurama episode.
No, the cloud has nothing to do with it. That was just a Futurama.
Oh, okay.
I'm talking about Cass, when she ascended beyond her form. And she just became a conscious being with extra powers, and helped propel the Voyager further in the future. Spoilers! Too late. I said it already. And they were told, do not trust other religions.
Don't trust other religions.
I mean, I'm down for that one. Don't trust anything that you can't see.
Don't trust religion.
Is a general rule for life. But I said trust. There's a difference between trust and belief. You can believe it's there, but do you trust it?
No, I don't trust anything.
Exactly. Well, they were also told that the flight is nearing, and they must always be prepared for them to receive their ascension. And they continually worked on this, and studied this when they had gave themselves diet restrictions,
Yeah.
and they did the original detox cleanse.
Ooh.
You know, the lemon juice, water, cayenne pepper.
Oh yeah.
They did that for 3 months. That's all they lived on. Nothing else. And then they had a lentil diet where they just had nothing but lentils and things like that. But a lot of it, I think, was dictated by their cash flow because they didn't have much. So they would send people out to get menial jobs so that they can get money to buy essentials and things like that. And then all of a sudden they started referring to their bodies as vehicles.
Oh dear.
For the alien spirits. Scientology does this too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Oh, I want to take my vehicle in for a service. I need a new body kit,
Does
please.
that mean, with marathons and stuff, it's essentially Fast and the Furious?
Yeah.
They're running laps.
Yes. And when you fart, you're backfiring out of your muffler.
Oh, ew. They give muff a whole new meaning.
Muffy?
Muffy.
No. So it was very weird. And this is important. At the beginning of the cult, death was not essential for ascension.
Oh.
So, and then, this I love. This is one of my favorite things about it all. They retold biblical scriptures.
Oh dear.
With their own spin on it. And one example, and this comes from one of the ex-members, was Mary was taken up on a spaceship and impregnated by aliens.
Oh.
Hence why it was a virginal thing, and the alien was the light from the UFO and things like that. I mean, it's just as plausible as an angel impregnating her with God's seed.
Yeah.
It's just as plausible. I can't say that's not plausible.
Yeah, you can't say that one is accurate without taking time to hear the others. As crazy as they are.
Yep. And human bodies are basically, there's always been people in this TELAH heaven existence. And occasionally your body, your vehicle, goes up there like a skin suit with a zipper, as you said, hanging up on a coat hook, and occasionally you take it down, put it on, and you come to Earth for a while. And that's what Jesus did.
Jesus just had his meat suit on.
Yes, and Applewhite was once Jesus. Alien.
See, and that's the thing, they believe that humanity had been corrupt by aliens a long time ago.
Yes, by bad aliens.
By bad aliens.
Like Scientology. See, L. Ron Hubbard, he must have known about Heaven's Gate, because they have those, the things that make you feel bad are the bad aliens, and you gotta have the good alien energy to make you feel
Maybe
better.
that's what being infected with depression is. You've just gotten an alien or a parasite in you.
That's what Scientology says.
Oh, see, I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I could maybe get behind it.
No! Bad, Lucy! Bad! Pop you on the nose.
Lucy Fur, the Scientologist. It has a ring to it.
I'm gonna boop you on the nose. Like a cat.
I will
Boop.
your ass.
Well, the sad thing was, Nettles got diagnosed with liver cancer.
Oh dear.
But she believed that the doctors were wrong, and because her vehicle and all that, she started to just ignore it and do her own treatment regimes out in the middle of the campgrounds and that.
So how did that work out for her?
Oh, she died. She died in 1985 in a hospital, and Applewhite was with her in her last moments, and no one else was allowed in there.
Wow.
And it was after she died that a lot of stuff changed. I think it kind of snapped Applewhite, caused him to have, I don't know, almost like an what's it called? You're the mental health worker, not me.
Like a lapse of psyche?
Yeah.
I don't know.
He lost insight into reality, and easily put, he had a brain snap. His brain went,
oh dear.
And you know what's sad? He never even told Nettle's family that she died until 2 years later. Oh. And the way he did it was he sent her daughter Terry a tape with his voice saying, how chicken he was and how he's sorry that she died, but he knows that she's happy now, and that was basically it.
Wow.
You can hear the message on YouTube because Terry's still got the tape and still plays it, and it's really sad.
Mm.
Then, as I said, Applewhite just kind of the rules. So it kind of seemed they used to say that Nettles was the brains and Applewhite was the mouth of the organization.
See, that would make sense. Behind every man is a
Smart woman.
yeah.
And once the smart woman was gone, you had a dumb man with a big mouth.
Oh.
And this is when you see his eyes start changing when you watch the videos. It's
Yeah, because I watched one of the first videos and he had really tiny squinty eyes.
Yeah.
Then I watched one from a year or so before they went to the next level.
Yeah.
And yeah, don't do drugs, kid. Or maybe take your meds, like your doctor said.
Or do drugs safely.
Do drugs safely.
Do you, but keep check on yourself.
Yeah. And like another thing I noticed reading and watching a lot of these things, a lot of the phrases, and I reckon it stems from the whole like sci-fi aspect, is like you said they call their bodies vehicles and stuff like that. They were ascending to the next level. It sounds almost video game-esque.
It does.
It's like you just playing a video game in life, and
That's
their
right.
logo is like super neon and stuff. So,
And it's a key.
yeah.
It's a keyhole.
So like I don't know.
But when you also look at it, it's a keyhole, but it's almost an unk too.
Yeah, it is.
It's one of the
But I don't know. I would crucify me for saying I would play a game of the Heaven's Gate cult. Like the fact that they're all next level and
funnily enough there was a board game.
really.
I found out there was a board game and there was a video game made. I can't remember what it's called now. I should have written it down. But basically, it was basically the story of Heaven's Gate as a video game.
I would totally play it.
I tried to find emulators of it and I couldn't.
Aw.
I was very disappointed. That's why I said I wish I wrote it down. I have to try and find out what it was called again. If I do, I'll pop it as an end note at the end of this session.
Awesome.
But remember before how death wasn't needed to ascend?
Yes.
Now that Nettles has died, he went, oh, we do need to leave our vehicles.
Oh dear.
Like you get out of your car at the next stop.
Oh, see? Yep.
See how that works? I get it.
It makes
I mean,
sense.
it does make sense in a way.
Oh, it's scary how much of this is actually like seeming kind of legit to me.
Yeah. So to reach TELAH, they would have to leave their flesh suits. And then he started making rules, and this is when people started to go, okay, I'm leaving. So lying to him was a rule break.
Oh.
So you'd have to go stand in the contemplation corner.
Go to the contemplation corner and think about what you've done.
Time out, basically.
Yeah?
Keeping an offense to oneself and not sharing it with others.
Ooh.
So doing something that you're not meant to do but not telling anyone was naughty.
Don't do that.
Acting on a sensual desire.
Don't jerk off or have sex.
And someone did all the time.
Oh dear.
His name, now we know his name is as Sawyer.
So yeah.
Yes, and he would often masturbate and things like that, but he wouldn't tell anyone.
Sinner.
So he was a high school boy, teenage boy,
Oh my.
teenage girl, masturbating in secret because they think it's shameful and wrong.
Oh
And
dear.
so they were punished for doing it.
Oh dear. How were they punished?
Contemplation corner.
Oh yeah.
Or banishment from the thing until they could prove that they had cleared themselves of human plague, basically.
Oh dear. You've masturbated. Go to the contemplation corner.
Yep. And if you thought something was wrong, you should have checked with someone to see if it was wrong to do.
Oh.
So that if you didn't do that, you got in trouble.
Oh.
not trusting your own judgment, which criticizes the last, like it's hypocritical, the last rule.
Yeah.
Trust your own judgment. But if you think it might be wrong, you should ask someone else to judge it for you. But trust yourself.
Oh dear.
Being defensive with other people in the class.
Didn't you tell me my business?
Don't criticize others. No being selfish.
Oh dear.
No exaggerating the reaction of one's vehicle.
Oh, I will just live in the contemplation corner, okay? I get it.
No having preferences. No seeking approval and wanting to be perceived as good. Not getting too close to other people.
Oh, that's easy.
Don't get angry or aggressive.
Okay, yeah.
Don't be vain. And never be curious about other things that are outside of there.
Look, like I just said, I'm just gonna go and live in the contemplation space.
And this is when they started bringing in the dress code.
Oh,
Have you seen pictures of people from? Describe them.
the purple shrouds?
No, that was at the end.
Oh.
Like, they all had basically the same bowl cut.
Oh dear.
They removed all things that could associate gender. I'm not disagreeing with that. I'm not having a bowl cut though.
I'd rather not.
Wear baggy clothes that aren't form-fitting and things like that. I'm fine with that. Spend my day in pajamas. I can do that.
Yeah, Johnny.
Not worrying about gender. Fine. And they also all had to not use their names.
Oh.
So you would have to have a name that was associated with you and then add the word Odie at the end.
Oh.
Now, no one says what the Odie part is. So, like, if you were tall, you were tall Odie.
Oh.
Or if you like to dance, you were dance Odie.
Oh.
Things like that. So,
What
everyone...
would your Odie be?
Read Odie.
Read Odie.
I love reading. I'm a child of a librarian. I have no choice but read.
What would mine be?
Read Odie.
Well, no.
Tattoo Odie.
Yeah, probably. I'd be tattoo Odie. But would that mean I'm already a sinner because I'm coming into it with individualization on my skin?
No. You just have to keep it covered and forget that they were there. Because there were people with tattoos and beards. Like Sawyer in his book, and for God's sake, I'm not even going to read the title of the book. It's like 30 words long. Just for the title of the book. He wrote about his experience. Basically, when he first joined, they put him in a chair, shaved his beard, shaved his head. Straight up.
I would not like that.
You would have got punchy.
I would have got punchy as fuck.
And then you would have to go to the contemplation corner.
And that's where I would spend the rest of my days in the contemplation corner.
Well, they kept doing this nomadic lifestyle for a while. And then they decided to build a tire fort.
Oh.
Campsite. So the campsite was made up of all tires. Does this sound like Little Rascals to you?
Yeah.
And you know what makes it weird? They bought guns.
Oh.
But then they sold the guns because they realized they didn't need guns. So,
Bloody hell.
and so then they went, oh, okay, this kind of lifestyle isn't working for us. And 2 people received an inheritance.
Oh.
And
Money.
so with the $300,000 they bought the murder mansion, as it is referred to.
Oh, the murder mansion.
And they lived there peacefully for a while until about 1994, when the Hale-Bopp comet came.
Oh dear.
Now, the Hale-Bopp comet, it's basically kind of like Halley's comet, but it was... So, to make a reference to The Simpsons again.
The Simpsons.
In the episode where Bart sees the comet, and you can see it with your naked eye,
Yes.
that's what could happen with the Hale-Bopp. You did need a telescope. 2 astrologists found it and discovered it, and you could see it for a long time. But this was because they used to be, the cult used to be obsessed with anything extraterrestrial. Like they used to still watch Star Trek, X-Files, things like that. They would listen to an NPR show, and NPR is like the National Public Radio over there, the talk show. And this person rung up saying that I have photographic evidence of something trailing that comet. And they went, it's a spaceship that had tea on it.
Oh.
She was on the spaceship getting ready for everyone.
Oh my gosh.
So they took it as that this was their chance to send to TELAH. And so begins the beginning of the end. What a journey to get to this.
Gee.
And that's the summarized journey. It's a lot more.
Yeah.
Like they met this Filipino guru and all this other stuff along the way. There's a lot happened.
So, do we want to get straight to the night? Or the time that it happened?
I think maybe the few weeks leading up to it.
Yeah.
They started filming their farewell videos.
Yes.
And you can see those on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You have shown me some of them.
Yeah, and you see them sitting there, and they look happy, and they're accepting it. So you got to say they were true believers in the cause. You cannot deny that in any way.
Yeah.
And they believed what they were doing was right. So it's no different to people taking the corrupted Quran and suicide bombing.
Yeah.
They're so dedicated to their cause that they know the loss of their vehicle is fine. Like,
because they're going to the next level.
where they're going to live forever.
Round 2.
Fight!
Fatalities. Fatalities everywhere.
Oof. But yes.
And look me in the eye and tell me I'm wrong.
Oh, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying, oof. If I had to describe this whole situation as something, it would just be oof. Oof. French for egg.
Oof. Egg everywhere.
Oh. Well, leading up, they went out, they had a final dinner together, but they bought a uniform.
Oh. Did they buy it or did they make it? Because I read both.
Both.
Okay.
So they bought one and they altered it.
Yeah.
And they got patches made up for it.
Yep. And they kind of look like spacesuits.
Like NASA ones.
Yeah, that's the one. I was trying to think of it, but, you know.
Yeah. But they put on it the away team.
Oh my god.
On the patch. On all of them. So they had a little bit of a sense of humor in that. Because they would always have the away team on Star Trek.
Yeah, okay.
But none of them were wearing red.
Oh.
Star Trek fans will get the joke.
Oh, okay. I get you.
Because in the first series, anyone who wore red, who went on the away team, died.
Oh, okay.
So
is that like the whole joke that Reds can't shoot or something? I don't know. Or is that Stormtroopers?
That's Stormtroopers.
It's all the same.
Stormtroopers miss everything.
It's all the same.
I mean, if they would have watched the Star Wars movies because they came out then in that time period. There's just no documentation that I saw of them watching Star Wars, but I'm sure that they would have watched it.
Oh my gosh! And they would have worshipped Jar Jar Binks instead.
That was too modern for them.
Oh, okay. So the old Star Wars.
The three original ones.
Yeah. I get you.
I'm disappointed now.
Oh, shush.
Well, and so then they led up to the day of March 23rd, 1997.
23rd or 26th?
23rd was when they started, and 26th was when they were discovered.
Oh, okay, yes.
So,
Because my information has from the 26th. So you bring us up to the 26th.
oh no, it started on the 23rd, exactly how they were.
So let's talk about that.
So to leave their human bodies, they were essentially committing suicide, but they were
De-embarking from their fleshes.
Yes.
Unzipping.
And the way they did it was they got applesauce or pudding, so custard.
Yeah.
In other words, and they put barbiturates in it and a shot of vodka, so that they would just pass out. And then they put a plastic bag over their head, and someone else would watch over them and make sure that they died. Remove the plastic bag and then put the purple shroud over their head.
And they did this in their bunk bed.
In their bunk beds, and they did it over the process of 3 days.
Jeez.
And Applewhite was one of the last ones. And they knew that this is the order that they did it in because the last person didn't have a shroud on their head and still had the plastic bag.
So they did it in groups.
Yeah.
So there were 3 groups over the 3 successive days.
Yeah.
Where, yeah, exactly like you said. So one group would do it, then the other group would clean up after it. Then,
and they were all dressed in the exact same identical uniform, and they all had Nikes on. And people go, oh, there was always the joke that, oh, just do it was the joke for it. But it wasn't, because they bought them in bulk because they were cheap. They went to a warehouse and said, what have you got? And they bought them in bulk cheap.
Yeah.
So there's nothing compared to. Then that type of Nike was taken off the market, and now they're a collector's item.
Oh wow.
The last one that I saw went for $600,000.
Gee, it's just for a pair of Nikes.
Yeah. And then on March 26th, they received an anonymous phone call.
They did. The San Diego County Sheriff's Department received an anonymous tip through 911 system at 3:15 p.m. on March 26th.
Yeah.
Suggesting that they check on the welfare of the residents. Days after the suicides had happened, the caller was later revealed to be D'Angelo,
an ex-cult member.
Yes.
Who was sent a VHS to go check on the house on this day.
So the call went something like this. Caller. Yes, I need to report an anonymous tip. Who do I talk to? Sheriff's Department. Okay, this is regarding what? Caller. This is regarding a mass suicide. Can I give you the address? End of call. So reading that alone chilled me, and then I found it in a snippet on YouTube and heard it. And could you imagine being the person taking that call and being like, okay, is this a joke? Is this not?
Yeah.
And then imagine being the person to walk in to that address and find that it was fact.
Well, the guy who received the videotape had already been there prior to the sheriff's and cleaned up as per his instructions in the video.
Yeah.
And then him and another cult member killed themselves 3 days later to join the Ascension.
Oh dear.
That makes me wonder if they left the cult, but they were trusted enough to redo it. So they must have been a true believer.
They must have been. They must have been.
And there's all like videos and photos of like the bodies in their suits with the shrouds and all that. But one of the interesting things was they all had, I think it was like $1.30 or something in their pockets.
Oh.
Because they always joked around how they might need a bus fare to get there.
So $1 is $1 for non-Australian people. $1.
For anyone who's not American, we don't say $1.
I don't know. I say a few bucks.
I say a few bucks, but I don't go, here's $1.
Oh, yeah.
If you said that to me, I think you're bringing me a deer.
Maybe. But also another fun fact. Lucifer, fun fact. In the Museum of Death in Hollywood, they have a setup of an actual set of the bunk beds with mannequins wearing some of the real clothing worn by the dead cult members.
Yep.
That's twisted. So the more I read about this Museum of Death, the more I'm just like, I just want to go there just to visit it. Like, there's the gun that shot John Lennon.
There's a museum in France of medieval torture tools. I'd love to go see that. That'd be
fun. And there's a penis museum I'd like to check out too.
No, it's not that big, actually, the penis museum.
That's what they all say.
No, it's actually just like a room in someone's house.
Oh.
It's not like a big thing. And there's a vagina museum too. You want an interesting fact?
Go, tell me.
Speaking about weird museum items, you've always heard the term merkin. You know what a merkin is.
Yeah, that's the merkin.
A pubic wig.
Yes.
They were real things.
Yeah.
and they actually convinced a pope to kiss one,
Yeah.
telling them that it was the beard of some saint or something.
Drink from the fairy cup.
It's in my teeth.
Some other fun things about Heaven's Gate, while we still have a tiny bit of time, is that there was a movie made called Heaven's Gate, and it starred actors like Christopher Walken, and a French actress called Isabelle Huppert. And still till this day, the industry say it's the worst movie ever made for amateur hour. Still till this day.
Though, Christopher Walken, have you seen it?
No.
He gets Applewhite to a T.
Also, he played Applewhite.
He gets it to a T. It is amazing.
I mean, look, I would like to watch it because
It's on Stan.
It's on Stan.
We'll watch it later.
Excellent. That's where we'll go.
It's
after
not
we
very
sign
accurate
off.
though.
That's fine. I love horrible movies.
It's D grade. What's also interesting is, like, as I said, it's so well documented, because Heaven's Gate hired out, like, a public TV channel, and they started a TV series called Beyond Human, hence why everything's Beyond Human, Heaven's Gate Cult.
Oh.
And you can watch the videos online, and I watched about 2 of them, and I just went, I just want to kill myself from watching this. It drove me insane. I couldn't follow the logical leaps and bounds that he was making. It was so tangential and digressional. It was like living through the mind of a schizoid detective. It was very interesting to watch.
So I've just noticed something, and I'm just gonna jump back just for a quick moment. We haven't talked about how many members there were.
Yeah, there were 39.
So 39, 21 women, 18 men, aging between 26 and 72.
And we forgot to speak about what they're most famous for. The castration.
Oh,
I forgot to tell you about the castration people.
I'm surprised you left that out.
Well, Applewhite, after having a wet dream, came out and said, like, admitted to it, and basically said, we need to stop these humanly urges. I'm going to get myself castrated. Anyone else who's welcome can do it.
So did they do it chemically or via the knife?
Well, Applewhite had it done by a knife in Tier 1. But when you listen to Sawyer, he gives an interview, the guy who left the cult. They speak about how, like, they're going to chemical castration. And the first one, him and another person both wanted to go first to show their dedication for a physical castration. And they didn't want to go outside of the cult to do it, so there was an ex-nurse in the cult.
Oh dear.
This was after Nettles left, so there was one ex-nurse. And they were confident that they could do it. And so they started doing it with with a little bit of anesthetic and that, local stuff. And it went wrong, and it turned into a medical emergency, and they had to go to the hospital, and the person ended up having a full castration, which they wanted. And everyone else either had a physical or chemical.
Oh dear.
But it was, when you look at it as a percentage, 95% did it, had the castration done.
Yeah.
But it was only 6 out of 7 who had the castration done. So when you look at it, it's not that much. And when you hear Sawyer talk about it, he's still happy that it's one of the things that he ever did. Because it made him more open to the world.
So he wasn't driven by, like, sex or those kinds of urges?
Earthly desires.
Oh dear.
But the women didn't need to be castrated because they should have been able to suppress their womanly urges.
Oh.
No sitting on the washing machine for them. I mean, when you look at the cult as well, some of it, for something that was an agender cult, was still sexist.
Just sitting on the washing machine.
Have you never heard of that?
I've never heard that phrase before.
So it's a thing from, like, the 1960s, 1970s. Like, they would say to the women, oh, well, sometimes you may just need to sit on the washing machine. Because the vibrations of the old washing machine would be just right to help them orgasm.
Wow.
They make jokes about this on TV all the time.
I don't watch TV.
Yes, you do.
I watch Netflix.
Yeah, it's referenced in all shows. Heaps of shows.
I've never heard that phrase before.
They-
That's the best.
They say it in Santa Clarita Diet.
Oh,
Frank and Gracie. It's a commonly used term.
maybe I've just missed it all this time.
Like hand to gland combat.
Ew, I get it now.
Burying the bishop was a term for sex.
See, look, I know, like, flick the bean, and that's about it.
Have you not heard the term for losing your virginity is to bury the bishop?
No.
Think about the shape of the bishop on a chessboard,
Oh, jeez.
and you're burying it in something. Yeah,
Wow. How did we go from
castration.
to from
There was a
castration to
perfect-
burying a bishop?
I mean, Applewhite and Nettles never had sex. They were completely celibate and platonic. There's so many things about this cult, and you can still go on their website today.
Yes.
Because they started a website to recruit people, and you can email them and they'll get back to you. There's a couple, they're in their 60s now, I think they are.
Although
And
we
they-
do not advise joining the Heaven's Gate.
No, they tell people that apparently in the emails, because I've had an interview with them, that people aren't allowed to join anymore.
Okay.
So they basically just answer things. A lot of the stuff they get is like ridicule, but then they get people who are generally interested, want to know for like studies and research and things like that. I was contemplating reaching out, and I went, I don't kind of want my email attached to a murder-suicide cult. So I kind of just went, nah, I'll just leave it.
The
But I've
only
looked at the
email-
website.
The only suicide murder cult that my email will be a part of is my own.
Yes. Is it a murder-suicide cult, or would you go the Jonestown method?
That's a bit bigger. I don't think I could get that.
No,
kind of
you know
far.
who you would be? You'd be Asahara. That's exactly how you would do if you were a cult leader.
Maybe.
Tell people to go out on subways and release sarin and throw acid and anthrax from the top of buildings. That would be you.
Look, that's just anarchists, okay? Just the crumpling of society is gonna do it itself.
I mean,
Anarchists can just sit back and relax. Now.
I'd say this year the world's probably halfway there.
Yeah.
But Heaven's Gate was very interesting to read. There's so much on it. It's trying to filter through it, and there's so much information that we haven't said that we could have said.
That we could do an episode 2 on Heaven's Gate if people are interested enough to hear it.
Yeah, but we might split it up into 2 and do the whole topic again, but
But
more in depth.
one more thing. So with Heaven's Gate, it was applesauce and custard, right? So as we know about some other cults, they use Kool-Aid for it.
Jonestown.
But before we go, I have a fun fact about Kool-Aid.
Okay.
The Kool-Aid Man is said to is estimated to stand 6 feet tall with glass 3.6 inches thick. Therefore, without liquid, he would weigh 2,631 kilograms. But when filled with 607 gallons, he would come in weighing 4,990 kilograms, which is roughly the same weight as an elephant. The Kool-Aid Man weighs the same as an elephant.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah! And on that note, always remember, drink the Kool-Aid.